This is the Female Founder Show with host and entrepreneur Bridget Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN.
Today on the Female Founder Show, I'm joined by Jaime Diglio, founder and CEO of The Win Room, a performance coaching and training company that helps leaders, entrepreneurs, sales professionals, and customer-facing teams strengthen their confidence, communication, emotional intelligence, and ability to perform under pressure. Before launching The Win Room, Jaime spent 15 years as a top performer at Gartner and Microsoft. Like so many high achievers, she appeared successful on the outside, but behind the scenes, the pressure was taking a toll. A stress-related health scare landed her in the ER and forced her to rethink everything she thought she knew about success. That experience became the catalyst for creating the Win Room Method, a system designed to help people move out of the war room where self-doubt, pressure, burnout, and outdated leadership habits hold them back, and into the Win Room where confidence, clarity, and performance can thrive. Today, we talk about how leaders can improve what she calls the new ROI, revenue, retention, and reputation on interactions. Because every interaction with your team, your customers, and even yourself is either building trust and opportunity or costing you both. Jaime, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you've spent years working in high-pressure corporate sales before launching the Win Room, and you've shared that after 15 years as a top performer, you found yourself in the ER with 2 young children at the time. Talk to us about that moment and the impact that had on you.
Well, I think it's like we operate, slowly we start to take on more and more. Specifically, if, when you're someone who's highly ambitious and you take on and you do well in your career, you continue to take on more and more, but it slowly creeps up on you. So it's like the temperature rises, but you don't realize it. It's like,
Yeah.
you wouldn't put your hand in scalding hot water, but you don't realize that it is, because it's just risen a little bit every day. And so that for me was a wake up moment for me. I ended up in after years of performing at a high level and having 2 young children, I ended up like losing feeling in my legs, and sent me to the ER thinking there was something, dramatically wrong with me. And they checked me out and said, "You're having a stress response in your body," which was really a representation of that I'd kind of lost myself and I didn't know where I stood. I didn't have a foundation that, I didn't have that foundational footing. And it was this sort of wake up call. I was the breadwinner and my husband's a teacher and a coach. I had to figure it out. And this was 11 years ago now. And nobody talked about burnout back then. So it wasn't something I could talk about.
Yeah.
I had to figure it out.
Yeah, you probably had no idea what was going on.
No, nobody talks to us about this. That how stress impacts the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
crazy.
So then that led you to talk to us about, so going through all of that, what did it make you come to realize that you needed to do?
Yeah, it made me realize that this was something as a high performer, we're taught how to do all the sort of one size fits all. This is how you manage. This is how you sell. This is how you do this. This is how you perform. And it's a very one size fits all view of what success looks like. And I realized that even though I was performing at a peak level, I was empty on the inside. And it was because I was so fixated on everything that I wasn't doing. We operate in this sort of society, specifically in corporate environments, but also in just as the founder as well. We operate in this sort of what I call a war room, where we work against results. This is where we doubt ourselves, we self-sabotage, we focus on everything we're doing wrong. And so I found myself, trying to be like everybody else instead of figuring out who I was. And so that was actually the foundation of the Win Room company that I have today, which was how do you help yourself find your own winning formula? And so I found that I was able to do that and then help others to uncover their winning formula so they could stand in their strength instead of standing in their self-doubt.
I love this story. I love the stories where something comes from such a need that, you go from needing something and then realizing so many other people need it as well. So you created it, and now you're helping people go through what so many of us are going through on a daily basis. So congratulations on your success. That's fantastic. And thanks for all that you're doing to help people. And so many of us are running on empty, like you said, but we're still showing up every day, acting like we have it all together. Now, is there one piece of advice that you would give to those watching that you might be able to help right now that could help us navigate that a little bit?
Sure. So what most foundationally, like so much of the things that I talk about and teach and coach is like nobody teaches us this, that our brains are wired to put us in fear and in doubt of ourselves. And so we tend to actually minimize the things that we are strong in because they're easy for us. So each of us have our own unique strengths, but we tend to go, oh, well, that's not a big deal because it's easy for me. But you don't realize that it's not easy for other people. And so most of us are operating from what I call bad data, like the war room. So they're operating from all these stories they make up about how they don't fit in, what they're not good at. And we actually have been living in this society where it really is, it's always about all the things you don't have versus what you do have. And so what we want to do is we want to be able to gather what I call win room data, right? The opposites out of the war room, right? That's self-doubt, comparison, head trash, all the stories you tell yourself about what you're not good in. What we want to do is we want to get people into this headspace of win. The win room. Win stands for what I need. And so this is where you're clear on your goals, your values, the direction you're going in. And so the most, to the point, your question of what's good advice is that the noticing when the conversation, the interaction you're having with yourself, just noticing that self-talk is one of the most important first things, because you have to be able to notice it, to normalize it, to neutralize it. Okay. So how we talk to ourselves is one of the most foundational keys to our performance in our career and in our life.
Yeah, I know a lot of your core beliefs and a lot of things that you talk about is mindset and as well as leadership. So talk to us about how important that is, having a good mindset as a leader of a team or a company.
Well, I mean, I think that mindset is like one of those words that's overused or misused, and it feels very big. And so what we want to do is we want to actually think of it more as like, what are your beliefs? What are the things that you're sort of that data you're telling yourself? We are wired, like I said, we are wired to sort of focus on the negative data instead of the positive. That's why when we get 10 compliments and we get one complaint, we focus on the complaint. So we have to be like tripling down on the positives in order to just neutralize that negative. But we get caught here, and this is where we get stuck.
Yeah.
And everyone, I know whenever I do sessions for teams, we're all leaders in a certain way. And this is all about self-leadership. So first step of leadership is self-leadership, building that out. And it is super, super important to understand, what is your philosophy? What do you stand for? What do you believe in? What do you care about? You have a point of view. And so we really are like trying to pull that out of someone, because we each have it. It's just that it's usually buried in a sea of sameness, because we all, everybody wants to stand out, but everybody wants to fit in. And, the key here is that to be successful, you want to be less predictable, more memorable in everything that you do. And the first way to do that is to be able to sort of have a stance, have an opinion. So we really think about like, how are we building up our self-leadership, building our leadership language, so that we can be consistent and clear in what we do. And when we're consistent and clear in what we do, what we believe in, people start to trust us, right? Because it's consistent. And most people are out there just saying whatever they think is like, the thing of the month. And so when it comes back to mindset, it's like getting super clear and specific on what you want, versus what you don't want. What do you believe? Where are you going? And where I like break it down is like, okay, so your beliefs, they're what drive your thoughts, and your thoughts are what drive your feelings, and your feelings drive your actions, and your actions drive your results. So we have to start with our beliefs and like our self-belief. Super, super critical. I mean, it sounds simple,
But
but
I mean, and it kind of is, but it's, you just don't think about it that way. You think it seems like, oh my gosh, that's I'll never be able to do that. I'll never be able to focus on what I'm believing when I've got all of these things going on. How do I even have time to think about what I'm going through? But it's kind of like that analogy where you in the airplane and you've got the oxygen mask. You have to put yours on first and make sure you're okay before you can help your team or anybody else, right?
exactly. And I think that one of the things specifically for leaders, people who are leading teams, or just a few people, is this. It's important to know that all of us have those war room thoughts. Like I typically share like some of the when I've worked with tons of leaders, and the sort of, I'm not smart enough. People are people are think that there's somebody could be doing it better. I'm not, like, it's like the self-sabotage, like this whole list of things that consistently that people believe, that are in the top performing in their career, that this is what they're thinking of.
Yeah.
And so noticing how important our thoughts are about this, of what we believe is what we become. We have up to 60,000 thoughts a day. Up to 80% of our thoughts are negative. And then up to 90 to 95% of our thoughts that we have today are the same ones we had yesterday.
Right.
So we're in this repetitive pattern of loops of sort of how we behave, what we do, what we think. And so a big part of the win room is about it's about rebooting that operating system, noticing your habits and your patterns so that you can sort of get out of that negative space and spend more time in that, building that win room muscle of that's where you're operating from a place of performance, a place of where you want to be going, not where you're afraid of failing. So it's really the self-doubt to that self-leadership, and like that shift in how we're teaching. That's the mindset every moment of the day.
You really have to pay attention to what you're thinking about constantly.
Right, exactly. So it's really thinking of, like, you're thinking about your thinking, and then listening for other people's listening. So that's a whole nother part of it. So at the foundation of what we teach from a performance standpoint, it's emotional intelligence, which is understanding self, combined with social intelligence, which is understanding others, and how do you read others and how other people think, because they think differently than you. But the first step in that ability to have more effective interactions and show up more effectively with people is you have to understand yourself first.
Now, I've heard you compare business leadership to elite athletic training. Can you talk to us about what entrepreneurs and executives can learn from the way athletes prepare and perform and recover? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So much of what we do in our programs is really, if you think about how you train like an athlete. And athletes, what do? They practice. But what do we do as professionals? We just expect to perform, but we don't put any practice in place.
That's right.
So much of what we do is when we're thinking about what are these practices of how you are having your conversations, who do you want to be having a conversation with, what message do you want to get across, how are we practicing it? So much of it is role play, and uniquely coming across as yourself. And getting those reps in. So everything is it's not about perfecting, it's about practicing. And I say this to my kids too. We're taught that everything has to be perfect, but it's not about perfect. It's practice.
Yeah.
It's practice. We're constantly practicing. I'm practicing with you right now.
Mm-hmm. And I'm practicing with you right now.
And so when we think of it though, if we think of a moment where, because the idea too is how we practice then becomes how we perform. Mm-hmm. And so if we've already practiced it, then once we go to perform it, there's no, like, we can stay calm. And It's the same way with athletes. So this is what we do and instill within the mindsets of the clients that we work with. so that they can perform at that level under pressure, because we're all under pressure. Like, how are we managing this through practice?
I love that. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So you've also talked about, and I love this, about you have an interesting take on ROI and what you call interaction economy. Can you explain what that means? Because I thought that this was very interesting.
Sure. So I believe that we are either making money or losing money in every conversation. And this is an area that most people are not paying attention to. They're not measuring. And so when we think about ROI, in the Win Room, where we think about it is return on interactions, which is revenue on interactions, retention on interactions, reputation on interactions. So every person you know is either trying to, grow revenue, retain customers, or build a reputation. And how do you do that? We've been in this information economy with AI. You have access to everything. Everyone has access to this information. And what does AI do? Is it it's the average. So of all the information, so everybody has access to the same information. So you have AI, I have AI. Okay, you cross that out. What do we both have? Our ability to interact with people. And so we have shifted to this interaction economy where your value and your ability to be successful is not the information, it is your ability to build trust and connect with others. So that's what we do, right? It's all about how you are showing up consistently. Because most people, like, who do you trust?
Right.
And how do you know what to trust, like how to trust people? So this is the idea around your interactions, how you show up more memorably. You build that compounded interest with people because you're showing up from a place of presence and authenticity. Yeah. You're being the real you. And it's such a low bar today.
Yeah.
Because everybody else...
Yeah.
You don't know. You can't, it's hard to trust people. You don't know what to trust.
Yeah. And in a world, post-pandemic where so many people are still working from home and not interacting with people on the daily basis that they used to, I know there's still a lot of people that don't have the ability to socialize intelligently, like you're talking about, because they are at home not socializing. So important.
Well, absolutely. And, we've found so many reasons. We're like the most connected yet disconnected society ever. Yeah. And people don't know how to have real, authentic interactions, conversations. And how do you have a conversation? How do you interact? How do you connect with a person? Like it starts from yourself.
Yeah.
And so when you can show up present, knowing what you stand for, what you believe in, and have consistency in that like puts you way above so many other people who are basically just following the same script and what everybody else is saying.
Yeah. And that's in everything you do, whether it's business, social, family, everything. So that is so important.
What do you stand for? What do you believe in?
Yeah.
What do you care about? And that was the thing that I noticed over and over again. When I could pull that out of someone, their performance would increase, because it was like, it's like it took a weight off of them. Yeah. Like, that, no, you can actually be who you are meant to be. You don't have to keep trying to pretend to be like someone else. And the more you are you, this is the irony of it, it's the opposite of what we're taught. The more you are you, the more successful you will be.
Makes sense. It makes sense. I'm going to ask you one more question before I let you go,
Sure.
Because we have to talk about your book. We have to talk about Moneyball Leadership. Now, talk to us about what are some of the takeaways that you want your readers to take away. Talk about that for a sec.
Sure. So Moneyball Leadership, if you're familiar with, obviously I have a sports theme here. But Moneyball Leadership is all about how to find your winning formula. So similar to Moneyball, the movie, with Brad Pitt, where it was like, how do we instead of looking at like the superstar person that has all these qualities, this traditional way of measuring success, figuring out how do we find the hidden value in players? How do we find the hidden value in ourselves? And how do you then use that to amplify your success? So from a leader, so many leaders, it's not their fault, but how they've been trained is to be very one size fits all in how they are just following what everybody else looks like and does. And so this is about how do we unlock the leadership language of the individual so that they can stand out and perform at their best. So really, like that step, that method of really what I coach and teach is sort of how do we unlock that winning formula within the individual.
Fantastic.
And then once they unlock it within themselves, they then can practice it with their teams. And when they do that, that's where the performance rises, right? But it starts with the leader first. And that's, that sort of personal responsibility for how you're showing up and interacting with your people every moment of the day.
I love it. Jaime, thank you so much for all your great advice that you shared with us and everything that you're doing to help leaders figure this crazy world out. You're doing great work, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
This is the Female Founder Show with host and entrepreneur Bridget Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN. If you're a female founder and would like to help other female founders with your inspiring story, we would love to hear from you.